Have you ever had the unsettling feeling that you're living the same year over and over again, just with different dates on the calendar? It's a quiet, creeping realization. The scenery may change. The job title might get an upgrade. The faces in your life might rotate like a carousel. But the emotional landscape underneath it all remains hauntingly, stubbornly, the same. Peace feels like a temporary visitor. Abundance feels like a game of hide and seek, always teasing but never truly staying. Love arrives in a new disguise, but eventually whispers the same old aches of disappointment or fear. You start to question if progress is even real, or if it's just an illusion wearing a new set of clothes. You look in the mirror, and behind the tired eyes, you see the ghost of every past version of you, all nodding in weary agreement. You're stuck. The most maddening part? You're doing everything you've been told is right. You've read the books, you listen to the podcasts, you write the gratitude lists. You try to visualize a better future, scripting affirmations until your voice is hoarse. You meditate, you try to vibrate higher, you attempt to surrender and trust the grand, unseen universal plan. Yet, despite all this conscious effort, your reality keeps looping. It's like being trapped in a recurring dream, where the setting changes: a new apartment, a new partner, a new city, but the script, the feeling, the outcome remains identical. A profound sense of helplessness begins to set in, a deep, internal knowing that something isn't adding up. This feeling, this frustrating dissonance, isn't a sign that you've failed. It is the first tremor of a profound awakening. It's the moment you stop blaming the world outside and start seeing the pattern inside. What if this loop isn't life punishing you for some unknown cosmic crime? What if it isn't random chaos or bad luck? What if instead, life is a flawless, unwavering mirror, reflecting something you haven't yet changed? Not externally, in your actions, but internally, in your very energy, in the silent broadcast of your being. What if every technique you've tried wasn't wrong, but simply incomplete? Like trying to paint a masterpiece with only one color. What if the part that truly needed to shift wasn't your morning ritual, but the fundamental frequency of your subconscious mind? Today, you are about to understand why this loop feels so real, so unbreakable, and so painfully familiar. And more importantly, you are about to receive the key to not just break the loop, but to step out of it for good, into a reality that finally matches the one you've been working so hard to create. You've felt it, haven't you? That specific ache of living the same day with a different name. The sensation that you've walked this path before, had this exact argument, felt this precise flavor of disappointment. You've learned this lesson. You swore you learned it, yet here it is again, presenting itself in a slightly different package. It feels as though your life is spinning on a silent, invisible axis, relentlessly pulling you back to a familiar emotional home base, no matter how far you believe you've traveled. This isn't your imagination. The repetition you're experiencing isn't random noise or cosmic static. It's a signal. It's coherence. You are not being punished. You are being perfectly and precisely mirrored. Your reality is not responding to your wishes, your goals, or your affirmations. It is responding, with unflinching accuracy, to your energetic setting, to the very frequency you embody. This is the first and most crucial key to unlocking the cage. Life does not give you what you want, it gives you what you are. Not what you say you are in your journal. Not what you hope to become in your 5-year plan, but what you embody in the quiet, unguarded spaces between your efforts. The frequency you hold when you're not actively meditating, not visualizing, not trying. It's the energetic signature of your reactions when you're cut off in traffic. It's the subtle hum of anxiety in a silent room. It's the default story you tell yourself when you face a setback. These moments, these automatic states of being, carry a vibration. That vibration is your true, unfiltered broadcast to the universe. The quantum field, that invisible intelligence that organizes matter into the reality you experience, is not impressed by your rituals if the being performing them is still vibrating at the frequency of lack, fear, or unworthiness. It responds to the signal that runs deepest, the silent song of your nervous system, the authentic tone of your being when you think no one is listening. So, why does life feel like an inescapable loop? Because most of us are trying to live new days with old energy. We get a new job, but carry the same deep-seated imposter syndrome and fear of failure into every meeting. We start a new relationship, but bring the unhealed wounds of past betrayals, our nervous system already scanning for threats. We move to a new city, seeking a fresh start, but pack the same scarcity mindset in our emotional luggage, believing there will never be enough. On the surface, the scenery shifts dramatically. But underneath, the energetic blueprint, the core vibration, remains stubbornly fixed. And so, the great mirror of life reflects back what it always has. This isn't esoteric magic or some vague spiritual concept. It is the law of resonance. Like a tuning fork that causes another to vibrate at the same frequency, whatever you hold as an emotional and biological truth in your nervous system becomes the blueprint that reality has no choice but to build around you. Until that internal blueprint is consciously and intentionally rewritten, the house will always look the same, no matter how many times you repaint the walls. If this idea of your reality being a perfect mirror is already sparking a new perspective for you, take a moment to subscribe to Mind Decode Explained. We journey through these intricate landscapes of the mind together, offering not just information, but transformation, one insight at a time. By joining our community, you are making a commitment to understanding the deeper mechanics of your own consciousness. Let's get more precise. Your identity, the very story of you that governs your life, is not primarily written in your conscious thoughts. Your conscious mind is the captain shouting orders on the deck of a ship, but the subconscious is the vast, powerful engine room and the silent crew below, steering the vessel according to its ingrained programming. This identity is embedded in the emotions you have practiced into habit, the limiting beliefs you defend as realistic, and the deep-seated expectations you rarely, if ever, stop to question. You might consciously affirm, "I am worthy of great love," but your body, remembering past hurts, flinches at genuine intimacy. You might tell yourself, "I am a magnet for abundance," but your nervous system tightens with anxiety when it's time to invest in yourself, expecting loss. These inner contradictions are not lost on the field of potential. They create energetic interference, a mixed, chaotic signal. And when your broadcast is mixed, the loop doesn't just continue, it tightens. Life becomes a frustrating carousel of almosts, not quites, and what ifs, and you're left spinning, wondering why things never fully, completely, and permanently shift in your favor. But right now, in this moment, a light is being switched on. You are beginning to see it clearly. The loop isn't stubborn because the universe is deaf to your desires. The loop is stubborn because your core frequency hasn't truly changed. Reality is only doing its job with breathtaking perfection. It is holding up the mirror without judgment. So, the question we must stop asking is, why isn't anything changing for me? The more powerful, more honest question is, what frequency am I still broadcasting? What is the silent, emotional song I am singing beneath the noise of my daily life? Because the moment you become aware of that song, truly aware of it not as a flaw but as a signal, you have already begun to break the loop. The broadcast is no longer unconscious. You have brought it into the light of your awareness, and what was once an unchangeable pattern can now, finally, become a conscious choice. This is the true beginning of your escape. Not by running faster on the hamster wheel, but by finally, bravely tuning in. Once you grasp the profound truth that life is simply mirroring your energetic blueprint, a deeper, more frustrating question often arises. Okay, I see it. I understand the mechanics. So why can't I just change it? Why, even with this newfound clarity and the strongest intention, Does the loop still grip me so tightly? You feel like you're pressed up against invisible glass, seeing the freedom you desire, reaching for it with all your might, only to have your hand slip and find yourself right back in the same old room with the same old feelings. This is not because you are weak. It is not a sign that you are uniquely broken or that you're doing it wrong. It is because the part of you that desires change your conscious mind is not the part that is actually running the show. Your conscious mind, the 5% of your operating system, wants growth, expansion, and the thrill of the unknown. But your subconscious mind, the powerful 95% that governs your bodily functions, your emotions, and your automatic behaviors, wants one thing above all else: safety. And to the subconscious mind, safety does not mean happy, or free, or abundant. Safety means familiar. The loop is sustained not by your present thoughts, but by your past memories, stored not as images, but as emotions in the body. Your nervous system is a vast, sentient library of every version of you that has ever existed. It meticulously catalogs every shock, every heartbreak, every moment of shame, every instance of disappointment. It stores these experiences as distinct emotional signatures, like files on a hard drive, ready to be opened and replayed the instant a current situation feels even remotely similar. The pioneering psychologist Carl Jung articulated this perfectly. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. This fate is the loop. It is your subconscious bodyguard, trying to protect you. So when you begin to genuinely shift, to reach for a love that feels safer than you're used to, or an opportunity that feels bigger than you believe you deserve, your body sounds the alarm. It floods you with anxiety, doubt, or a sudden wave of fatigue. Not because it is malicious, but because it has been programmed by your past to keep you within the narrow, predictable range of what it knows. Even if what it knows is suffering, that suffering is at least familiar, and therefore safe. The unknown joy is a greater threat than the known pain. This results in the maddening dance of self-sabotage, the sudden procrastination on a crucial project, the inexplicable picking of a fight in a healthy relationship, the emotional shutdown that pushes away connection. It is the illusion that you are not ready yet, but readiness was never the issue. The issue was that your subconscious bodyguard had not yet given you permission to leave the prison yard. This brings us to a critical paradox of transformation. The stronger and more sincere your desire to evolve, the louder and more forceful the inner resistance often becomes. Why? Because genuine transformation threatens the very identity your subconscious mind has spent a lifetime building and protecting. You are not just trying to change a circumstance. You are attempting to disrupt the delicate homeostasis of your entire inner world. This is why old, painful patterns don't just fade away quietly into the night. They flare up. They reassert themselves with a vengeance. That old feeling of unworthiness, that familiar pang of anxiety, that deep-seated belief that you'll always be left behind, they surge to the surface, not to prove that you are failing, but to test your coherence. The old programming is asking you a question. Are you sure? Are you really willing to let me go? Will you collapse back into the familiar comfort of this pain, or will you hold the frequency of this new reality, even when every cell in your body is screaming at you to go back to what you know? Dr. Joe Dispenza's work brilliantly illuminates this process, explaining how we can become biochemically addicted to the emotions of our past. We get so used to the cortisol rush of anxiety or the familiar chemistry of guilt that our body's cells literally develop receptor sites for these emotions. When you try to change, to feel joy or peace, the cells go into withdrawal. They send signals to the brain, demanding their familiar chemical fix. This is the biological reality of the resistance you feel. You are breaking a literal, physical addiction to being your old self. This is why people feel so stuck, even while diligently doing the work. Because underneath the conscious practice of affirmations and journaling, the emotional body is still looping the old reality. You can write, "I am abundant," 1,000 times, But if your body still holds the cellular memory that money is scarce and dangerous, the loop remains intact. You can speak affirmations of worthiness, but if your nervous system is conditioned to expect betrayal, the quantum field will echo that deeper, more dominant expectation. Until you bring the subconscious and the body into alignment with your conscious desires, not through force, but through gentle, compassionate awareness and somatic repatterning, the loop will persist. Not as a sign of your failure, but as a clear signal that more of you needs to come online, that the change needs to happen at a cellular level before the external shift can stabilize. The escape isn't about doing more things. It's about feeling more deeply, seeing your inner world more clearly, and choosing differently, moment by moment, even when the seductive whisper of the old frequency tries to call you back home. Now you see it with piercing clarity. The loop survives and thrives because the body and the subconscious mind are still vibrating at the frequency of yesterday's pain, yesterday's limitations, yesterday's self. But simply knowing this often isn't enough to break it, because a strange and critical phenomenon occurs right at the precipice of change. Right when you are about to rise, right when the new reality is beginning to crystallize, the old reality fights with all its might to return. This is the moment that most people on a healing journey misinterpret, and it's the moment where they give up, turning back just steps from the finish line. This resistance doesn't arrive with blaring sirens or warning signs. It doesn't shout its intentions. It sneaks in quietly, like a phantom in the night, disguised as perfectly logical thoughts, sudden fatigue, or a wave of impatience. You feel a subtle, almost comforting urge to settle for less. A familiar, melancholy emotion creeps back into your heart, and if you are not paying close and compassionate attention, you fall back into the loop. Not because you consciously choose it, but because, in that moment of vulnerability, it simply feels like home. This moment is sacred. It is not a sign of failure. It is the test. This is what you must understand. It is the final, desperate flare of an old frequency that is losing its power over you. When you are on the very edge of a significant up-leveling, your subconscious system amplifies the old identity one last time. It's not because you are fundamentally broken. It's a principle of all systems, from ecosystems to our own nervous system. They resist destabilization. Change is a form of destabilization. And that resistance shows up in your own thoughts, whispering seductively, maybe this is as good as it gets. Maybe I'm just being delusional. This is too hard. I should just give up. Who am I to think I could have that? But these thoughts are not truth. They are echoes. They are vibrational memories, ghosts of the past, trying to reclaim the psychic space they once ruled. This is the loop's final survival mechanism, to convince you to abandon the shift just before it has a chance to fully stabilize and become your new normal. If you collapse in this critical moment, if you believe the whispers of doubt, the pattern wins, not because it is stronger than you, but simply because it is more familiar. That is how it stays alive. Not through brute force, but through your unconscious recognition and participation. The subconscious mind clings to what it knows, even when what it knows is painful. This is where you must learn to be something you have likely never practiced before. To be unwaveringly present in the white-hot center of the discomfort. Most people's strategy is to escape discomfort, to distract, numb, analyze, or suppress it. But escaping the discomfort is the very act that feeds the loop. Freedom, real and lasting freedom, lives on the other side of your willingness to stay, to breathe into the anxiety, to witness the urge to sabotage without acting on it, to choose differently even while the old frequency is still screaming in your ears. Because when you can feel the fear and not obey its command, when you can notice the pull of the old pattern and not participate in its drama, you begin to create a sliver of space. In that sacred space, something new can finally emerge. This is the portal out of the matrix of your past. It is not a dramatic, cinematic event. It is not a magical day when everything suddenly clicks into place. It is a quiet, courageous choice made in a seemingly ordinary moment. the choice to respond from your future self instead of reacting from your past self. To pause, take a single conscious breath, and remember what you are creating. The loop is not just in your external circumstances, it's encoded in your automatic reflexes. And once you interrupt the reflex, just once, the pattern begins to lose its power. It can no longer run on autopilot. You have taken your hands off the passenger seat and placed them firmly on the steering wheel. In that moment of conscious choice, you have broadcast a new, clear, coherent signal to the quantum field. And when that new signal begins to stabilize through repeated, conscious choice, reality, by its very nature, has no choice but to reorganize itself around it. This is how the escape truly begins. Not with a roar, but with a whisper of awareness. Not with more control, but with greater coherence. Once you have learned to recognize the loop and, most importantly, to catch yourself in that critical moment when it tries to pull you back in, the next pivotal question emerges. How do I move forward from here without falling back in again? This is where most well-intentioned efforts go astray. We try to push our way out. We believe we need more willpower, more discipline. We double down on our efforts. We grasp for control. We demand that the universe deliver our results on our timeline. But the loop cannot be escaped through force, because force is still part of the old frequency. The energy of force, struggle, and pushing is rooted in the very states of being we are trying to leave behind. Fear that it won't happen, urgency that it needs to happen now, and scarcity that believes it might not be available. True, sustainable change, the kind that rewrites your reality from the inside out, does not come from trying harder. It comes from tuning differently. You do not overpower the loop. You out-vibrate it. Resonance is the key that unlocks everything. You must become an energetic and emotional match for the version of yourself who already lives the reality you desire. Not just in theory, during a 5-minute meditation, but in your biology, in your nervous system, in the rhythm of your breath. The work, as Dr. Gabor Maté's research on trauma implies, is somatic. It's about the body. This means teaching your body what peace feels like before the external world is peaceful. It means practicing the feeling of worthiness in your cells before the world offers you validation. It means consciously grounding yourself in the feeling of abundance and security when your bank account might still be whispering a story of lack. This is not faking it till you make it. That is a performance. This is profound preparation. It is the act of creating an inner frequency so coherent, so stable, so dominant that the old frequency of fear and lack can no longer find a foothold. It can no longer survive in your energetic field. Think of it this way. 5 seconds of deep, embodied alignment will do more to shift your reality than 5 hours of panicked, forceful striving. When your signal shifts from the frantic static of fear to the clear, calm tone of truth, the quantum field responds not with speed, but with breathtaking precision. You do not need to wait for your life to change before you change your vibration. That is the loop's greatest and most pervasive illusion, the belief that evidence must come first. When I get the money, then I will feel abundant. When I find a partner, then I will feel loved. But the universe doesn't work that way. The physical evidence is always a delayed reflection of your dominant frequency. The field moves after your internal state does. So instead of constantly scanning your external world and asking, "Where is my breakthrough? Why hasn't it happened yet?" you must turn your attention inward and begin asking, "What signal am I broadcasting right now, in this moment?" Let your emotions be your guide, your tuning fork. Let your breath be the bridge from the old self to the new, and when doubt inevitably returns, as it will, meet it not with struggle, but with softness. Meet it with the compassionate understanding that it is just an echo, a ghost with no real power unless you give it yours. You are not here to fight and force a new reality into place. You are here to become the resonance that makes the old reality energetically impossible to sustain. This isn't about one giant heroic leap. It is about 1,000 small, almost invisible choices. True transformation is subtle. It is not loud. It lives in the moments you choose not to spiral into an old story of doom. It lives in the conscious breath you take instead of feeding the familiar fire of panic. It lives in the way you consciously soften your shoulders and your belly when life tempts you to harden your armor. It lives in the quiet, resolute moments when you say to yourself, even if nothing looks different on the outside yet, I will hold the frequency of peace, of love, of abundance anyway. Each one of these small internal shifts sends a powerful, coherent message to the field. I am ready. I am no longer available for the old reality. Not in desperation, not in a demanding performance for the universe, but in quiet, embodied truth. Because you are no longer chasing a future you hope to get. You are embodying the frequency of that future, right here, right now. The shift deepens exponentially when you stop waiting for reality to confirm who you are. You must confirm it first, to yourself, and then reality, the great mirror, follows. Not always as quickly as our impatient minds would like, not always loudly and dramatically, but with an unfailing universal consistency. This is how the loop truly ends. Not by fixing your life, because your life was never broken. It was only reflecting. It ends by dissolving the version of you who needed to be fixed in the first place. When you no longer identify with the pattern of suffering, the pattern no longer has a place to land in your experience. The echo fades into silence. The mirror clears. And what reflects back is not a loop, but a life that finally feels truly, breathtakingly alive. If your life has felt like a repeating loop, it's because something deep inside you has been unconsciously echoing the same signal, and life, in its infinite and impersonal perfection, has simply been responding, not to punish you, but to reveal, to guide, to gently, persistently wake you up. And now that you see it, now that you understand the mechanics, you can shift it, not with more doing, but with deeper being. You are not here to fight for your future. You are here to remember it, to walk as the frequency of what you have already. On an energetic level, become. You are here to end the loop not by trying harder, but by no longer being the version of you that created it. And when you do that, everything, absolutely everything, changes.